Hi folks, how's all doing? Yes, I know, it's me. This is a bit of a different perspective. Um, I thought it was about time I did a layout update video. It's a wee while since I did the last one. So I'll show you what I've been up to and what I've got planned for the future. But before that, I put a community post up a while ago with the idea of doing some kind of question and answer video. Now, I did try to do that because a few people posted questions to that post, and I wanted to cover all the frequently asked questions as well. And I did try to make a video a couple of times, but it ended up being just way too long, way too boring. And I really don't want to fall into the talking head type video thing that you see other people doing on YouTube. Not interested in doing that. So I've created an FAQ post on my Ko-fi page. I'll put a link in the description. So I'll post that. I'll include that in the description for all my videos from now on. So anybody who asks what the contact cleaner is I use, they'll get pointed straight to that FAQ. I'm not going to answer those questions anymore. For all the other questions that people asked, well, if you're prepared to stick around in this video, I'm going to do my layout update, tell you what I've been doing, and then after that, I'm going to do some work on the layout, and I'm going to film it, and I'm just going to chat away as I do it, and try and cover all the topics raised in those questions. Not all of them, because some of them are covered by the FAQ, but I'll try and cover some of the questions that people ask me. But be warned, it's probably going to be quite a long video. So by all means, just go if you're not interested after the layout update. Right, okay, let's get at it. So in my last layout update video, I was talking about what I was doing to this area here and showing you the goods shed and stuff. Well, it's all nearly completed now. I've just got a few little bits and pieces I want to do, but there is the goods shed in place. I've got my new track is all ballasted. I've got my two brakes. If you remember, I was talking about having two brakes in the track, two isolated sections. So when I'm running the shuttle, I can stop different trains in different positions. So that's working fine. This is my new platform, which was made as a kind of a kit bash between the scale scene stuff and a Metcalf kit. I bought the Metcalf kits and then I discovered scale scenes. And if you're not familiar with scale scenes, I'll put a link in the description. But basically, if you've got a printer, you can download PDFs of lots of texture packs, print them off, and build kits. So the platform surface there is by Scale Scenes. The fencing is plastic fencing I bought off eBay. This little platform shelter is a Scale Scenes kit. So I just printed off onto label paper, self-adhesive label paper, and just use some card, follow the instructions, and you can end up with something like that, which I think is quite nice. I wanted to have a much smaller building on the platform for this station. Previously I had this big thing, which I thought was a bit out of place, because I just want this to look like a very old and now barely used station. And probably used more in conjunction with the goods depot rather than for passengers. But I still want it to be used occasionally for passengers. So there's my car park that I said I was going to build. I've still to put some yellow lines on here across the way to make that cross-hatched. And the road now goes right round to the level crossing there to join onto the road up the hill there. This is little Scale Scenes lampshade. Again, just done from printing stuff off and sticking it onto card. The road is just made from cardboard, just cut to shape, stuck down with PVA, and then just painted. The paint I use for working on the layout is this stuff. You get this in Hobbycraft. It's just ready mixed paint. I think it's really meant for kids to play with because it's water soluble and washes off dead easily. But it's really, really cheap. I think this big bottle was about £3. You can buy smaller bottles for £1, I think. So I've got, this is black, I've got white, green and brown. So I mixed the black and the white paint to make a sort of a grey colour, sort of grey tarmac colour. Painted that on and then just scratch over it with some very light grade sandpaper just to give it a bit of texture. I painted the white lines by masking off with masking tape. I think I'd have been better off actually cutting strips of self-adhesive paper, but that's what I did with the yellow lines. This plastic security fencing, I got this off eBay, a couple of packs of it, just glued it in place and painted it with acrylic dark grey paint. I might go over it a wee bit, try and get some rust in there. I've added, some grass and bushes and stuff just to make it all look as if it's been there for a while. Still got work to do in the level crossing, got to do some line work on the roads, and this stuff here is just black plasticine that I'm using as a filler, so I'll need to cover that over with something. I've still got a lot of detail to add to the goods depot here, some people milling about, some barrels and junk, and I've ordered up some traffic cones and a skip, stuff like that, just get it looking a little bit more used than it is at the moment. So this little stone arch thing here, we would call this a cundy up where I come from, a little sort of a water channel that goes underneath a road. We would call that a cundy. That was printed off from a scale scenes pattern, but I think I'm going to gouge this out a little bit and have a little burn coming down into the water down here. I still need to do some work on this. This is all rebuilt out this way a little bit, just using plaster. But I need to do some more paint work on this and stuff. So this old station building that I made from a Metcalf kit is now surplus to requirements. If anybody would like this for the layout, just get in touch with me and I'll send it off to them. So the next job I'm going to do is get rid of this fencing. This is the really cheap sort of cardboard cutout stuff. I don't like it. It's far too flimsy and it starts to bend and everything else. So this is all going to get ripped out, and that's what I'm going to do later on in this video. This fence here next to the maintenance line, this was also that horrible cardboard fencing, but that's all been replaced now with much more rigid plastic fencing. It's just this stuff you can buy off eBay. It's just 3D printed and it's relatively cheap, but once you paint it up, it doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to replace all this fencing with that plastic stuff in a moment or two. A wee update on the Caledonian single. I've replaced the wheels on the tender. These are 16mm wheels I got from Scale Link. They're the only ones I could find that would fit. So yeah, I think they work a little bit better and they're going to reduce a little bit of drag. In the video I did on this, I mentioned that I put weight into the tender to help hold down the rear of the locomotive. I've removed that weight because all it was really doing, more than anything else, was just increasing drag. And really, with this thing and its very poor traction, you want to minimise drag as much as possible. So I took the weight out and I've replaced these wheels, which spin a lot better than the trying ones. You can see it moves nice and freely now. So I still may put pickups on the wheels and that, but it seems to work fine with the pickup I fitted on the front bogie. It seems to work absolutely fine, so I think I'll probably just leave it alone. When you add pickups to the wheels, again, you're increasing drag because there'll be that little bit of resistance on the wheel because of the pickup wiping the surface. So yeah, I think I might just leave it alone. I picked up another Caledonian coach. This is the brake one, got off eBay for £13, not too bad. So I'm on the lookout for another Caledonian composite coach. But some of them on eBay go for a ridiculous sum of money. People are wanting 30 odd quid for them, which is just ridiculous for an old trying coach. But if I can get one about the same price I got this for, between £13–15, I'll get that. In my last update video I talked about replacing this point with a diamond crossing and having a shuttle working from here, going through the point, along a new track and into the tunnel here, disappearing, stopping for a while and then coming back. And just doing that on the shuttle, and that way I could work that and still work trains on the rest of the layout. So I think I am going to do that. I've pretty much decided that's what I'm going to do. But I think what I'm going to do is just model a tunnel in here. So I'll bring this out a bit, have the tunnel here, and along here we'll have a bridge, like a little viaduct type thing. Model this out a bit, this river will come out a bit. And then the shuttle will just go back and forward across the bridge, into the tunnel, wait, and then come back again. I quite like the idea of that actually. it's going to be a bit of work, and I'm going to have to rebuild my control station here, which I kind of want to do anyway. I want to get rid of all these and just build a big switch panel. So that's another thing for the future. So I'm not quite sure when I'm going to start doing that, but I'm definitely going to do it. A couple of people suggested putting a double slip in here. There really isn't room. A double slip's quite a long thing, and it would just, no, I'd have to rework everything here. I don't really think it would work. So I think just a diamond crossing in there. I could route it and join onto the track at the back there in the tunnel by way of a curved point. That's a possibility. And that way I could still run a train from this siding out across the viaduct into the single tunnel, and then it'll come out that tunnel there on the main layout, which is quite a nice idea actually. Another thing I was thinking, at the moment this little branch line is really just a link between the outer track and the inner track, because it comes off here, across the diamond crossing, right round, and then just joins the inner track there. So yeah, if I'm running two trains, it really is just one on there and one on there, and they're just going round and round and round. So I'd kind of like to be able to link this track with that directly, so possibly just replacing that crossing with a point, but I'm wondering possibly if I could get a double slip in here, and then I could still run trains that way, but they could also come off that way. And that way I could have a train running on this and a train running on the branch line at the same time. Now, of course, there's still lots of work to do up here among the houses. I still want to replace them. I know some people said leave them, HO houses give a slightly better sense of perspective. I don't know. I'll think about it. But at the moment, my plan is to replace all these houses with 00 scale ones and get more trees and other things going on up here. These hedges I want to extend up a bit. I've just never finished them, just never got round to it. So there we go, that's what I've been up to, and that's what I've got planned. Right, let's get stuck into this fence. So we'll start by removing all these bushes, which we'll reuse. So what am I going to talk about? Yeah, a number of people asked me if I could show them all the tools that I use and all the products, and like a tour of my workbench and stuff like that. Well, at the moment, a tour of my workbench really, you really don't want to see. It's just a mess. I do plan, in the not too distant future, to completely rebuild it. I was going to do that a couple of months ago there. I was going to redecorate the room and do it then, but a couple of things got in the way, and to be honest, I just couldn't be bothered. But I'll get around to it, and then we'll build a new workbench, and at that point we'll do a video along those lines where I can show you all the stuff I use and all the tools and kind of what goes on behind the scenes of a typical repair type thing. Right, just rip this fence out, which is easy done because it's so flimsy. What else did people ask me? Oh yeah, people are asking if I could do sort of more detailed videos about how to repair certain types of motor, like a sort of step-by-step guide. The trouble with that is, wait a minute, I'll just get this fence out. There we go, that's it, get rid of that. The trouble with doing sort of a more detailed step-by-step how-to type video on how to repair any kind of motor, you know, it's not easy to do technically. You know, making these videos that I make isn't easy. It's quite difficult to do. It takes a lot of time. But if you watch something like James May's Reassembler, that's a good example. You'll see that if he's working away, he's got a couple of cameramen, sound engineer, you know, a whole team of people around him, I've just got me and my phone, so it's very difficult technically to do something and film close-ups from different angles as you do it and narrate it as you go. You know, it's not easy to do. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying I won't do it, but that's the reason I haven't done it to date, is that it's just too technically challenging at the moment for me. So here's all my new fencing. I'll probably have to clip some of the posts off at the bottom so it runs level along the baseboard, and I'll probably have to poke some wee holes in the baseboard for it to sit in. So poke a wee hole in there. That end post will fit, but I need to trim off the bottom of all these other posts. So that'll sit there, and then I want to poke another hole in there. There we go. So that'll just get glued in place with some PVA. The posts into some PVA, and that'll set there. So the next one, I want to cut this post off entirely because you don't want double posts. I'll cut these off and then mark where that's going to go and poke a hole. So again, we'll cut the these posts down so it sits level on the surface and it allows the end post to sink into its little hole. And then for this section of fence joins the previous section, I'm just going to glue it with some UU. As good as anything else. Just got to dip that in the PVA. Right. Okay, so 2 sections in, I've got all this to do. Somebody asked me what inspired me to come back into the hobby. You know, I had a model railway back in the 70s when I was a kid. It got packed away when I was 15 in 1980, and I only recently just came back into the hobby a couple of years ago. So somebody asked, you know, why did I come back? What made me come back to the hobby? And what changes do I see for good or, you know, for better or worse? So the reason I came back was really just I had I suddenly had the space and the time more than anything else. You know, up till recently, I only had one spare room in the house, and I wasn't allowed it to have a model railway in there. I'd already taken over one room with my computer and stuff and guitars and everything. So, you know, building a model railway just really wasn't possible. I do have a big loft, but it would cost a fortune to get converted to house a model railway. There's just far too many timbers up there. It would be far too cold in the winter and far too hot in the summer, and it's just not possible. But if I could get it converted, it would be great. But you know, a couple of years ago, my son left home, and suddenly we were left with 2 spare rooms. So at that point, I was suddenly allowed to build a model railway. But you know, even though I left the hobby, I always wanted to come back to it. You know, it's never something I thought, well, I'll never ever do that again. I always knew I would sort of come back to it, because although I'm not particularly a train enthusiast as such, I've always loved model railways. And I remember, I think it was in the 1990s at some point, my wife and I went to New Lanark in Lanarkshire, which is a sort of industrial heritage museum. Well worth a visit if you're in that neck of the woods. And just by chance, when we were there, they had this fantastic model railway set up. It was huge. It must have been about 20 feet long in a great big Perspex case. Lots of trains running, it was all automated. It's the first time I'd seen a shuttle in action, and I just thought that's brilliant, and I was fascinated with the shuttle. And I think I always thought, if I ever build a model railway, I'm going to have one of those, just to have a train going back and forward automatically. So that was one of the main reasons I wanted to put a shuttle into this layout. But so yeah, that's kind of why I came back. It was really just I was able to more than anything else all of a sudden. I came back just before lockdown, and of course lockdown happened, and that was quite fortuitous in a way because suddenly I was working from home, so I had a lot more time to spend on working on the layout, and not having to commute, being able to come in my lunch breaks or my tea breaks, and work on the layout. Or it just made a huge difference being able to work from home, and it's suited me to a T. But what's changed in the hobby? Well, I think obviously DCC is a thing that wasn't there when I left the hobby. 01 had just appeared when I left the hobby. So that's probably one of the biggest changes. I never had any intention of going into DCC because I thought, well, the stuff I've got is all DC, and really all I wanted to do when I came back to the hobby was build a little model railway, and buy all the locomotives that I always wanted as a kid, like Duchess of Sutherland, 125, Mallard, DMU, all the ones that I never had as a kid and always wanted. Get them off eBay cheap and repair them and get them going. And that was all, that was my intention. That was the only ambition I had for the thing then. But, so DCC, I was like, yeah, I don't know. If I had a bigger layout, if I had a big, huge layout where I could run, room to run lots of trains and stuff, I might be more inclined to DCC. But to be honest, radio control interests me much more. The idea of radio control is something that I find interesting. I love the idea of the locomotive being self-powered and not relying on the power from the track. But other changes in the hobby, obviously the models run so much quieter and smoother, and I think that's fantastic. And although, absolutely, they're so fragile, they're fantastically detailed, but they break so easily, and they're a nightmare to work on and service and all those other bad points. But I look at my J36 and my Cal 812, the only two brand new locomotives I've got, and they run so quiet and so smooth. you can't help but love them, So absolutely, I think modern locomotives are better in a lot of ways, but they are. I think there's far too much attention goes into the detail, so they're more fragile, they're difficult to work on, and not being able to service the motors and stuff kind of takes a bit of the fun away, but I don't mind that so much. If a locomotive runs perfectly quietly and smoothly and faultlessly, I would much rather have that. So, I'm not, I don't have any kind of big downer on the modern stuff at all. Apart from the price, but then locomotives have always been expensive. I think we all complain about the prices nowadays, but they've always been expensive. So it is what it is. But I'm not one of those people that starts bashing Hornby or Bachmann for what they do. They don't get everything right. They make a lot of mistakes, but I think they get a lot right as well. And I think there's possibly a little bit too much negativity, dare I say. I don't want to be controversial, but I think, credit where credit's due. Where would we be in the hobby without them? I think we have to remember that. It would be nice to see them do some kind of cut price range where they weren't so detailed, they weren't so prototypical, and they just focused on something that was affordable, sort of entry level stuff. That would be great to see, I think. Somebody asked me what the worst locomotive I've worked on was. Well, there's been a few candidates for that, to be honest. But I think I would have to say I bought a Replica Railways B1 off eBay. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Because I wanted a B1. I still want a B1, but the Replica Railways one was awful. Just absolute crap. It had warped wheels. It was just in terrible condition, and you could see, the only reason it was in terrible condition was just because it was cheap crap, And I've kind of found that with all the mainline and replica stuff, that while they can look really nice, under the hood, they're just rubbish. So I would recommend staying well clear of mainline and replica railway stuff. And I'm not a big fan of Daypol either. The older stuff, I haven't seen any of the newer Daypol stuff. Maybe it's okay, but certainly the older stuff is pretty bad as well. I have had one or two repair requests that have never made it to video. Not because I couldn't repair them, but they just weren't good video subjects. Even though I tried to film it, there was a couple of Daypols. There was I think there was 2 Daypols. I think it was a Class 37 as well. I just thought, oh, no, there was so much try. Does that work? No, it doesn't. Try this. Does that work? No, it just took forever. And I got so fed up doing the repairs. I just thought, right, I'm not filming this. I'll get it fixed and I'll get it back to the person. So there's been a few instances of those, but I think definitely the B1 is the worst locomotive I've worked on. Somebody asked how much I make from YouTube. The answer is nothing. Ooh, look at that painter. When you go over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, you can start to monetize your videos. So when I got over 1,000 subscribers, I thought, I could maybe make a wee bit of money. However, I did start to do that. I started to monetize them, and I reckon I could maybe make possibly 50-60 quid a month or something, if I kept churning out the videos. I thought, well, that's okay. I'll have some of that. But the trouble is, Google want you to do a tax return. In America, you have to deal with the IRS. In the UK, I would have to go onto the Inland Revenue website and register myself as partly self-employed. Now, I have a full-time job. It's a PAYE, pay-as-you-earn tax thing. So the idea of having to, register and manage a very minuscule amount of tax, I just couldn't be bothered with it. So I never did it. And Google won't release some of the money that I've earned from my AdSense account because I haven't done a tax return. And I got a letter from the IRS, didn't understand a word of it, and I just thought, you know what, I can't be doing with this. I don't do this to make money, I do it for fun. And I just thought, I don't want to turn this into kind of a chore, so I stopped monetizing the videos. And also, it's not so good for you guys, if you have to watch adverts and stuff. And that's the only way you really make the money, is by putting adverts at the beginning of the video, especially non-skippable ones, so you force people to watch them so you get the click-through rate. You don't want that. So I've forgotten to put a wee hole in the baseboard here, so this is what happens when I blether. I forget to do things. Let's stick it in there. So yeah, I just didn't like the idea of it, and thought, nah, we'll not do it, we'll not monetize, we'll just make the videos. Oh dear, that's going to have to get cut. I'll cut that one right out, because I've got a wee hump in my baseboard there. We're getting here. What's this now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces in place. And of course, once the glue's set on this, I've got to paint it. I could paint it before I fit it, but I prefer to put it in and then just paint it all in one go. What was I talking about? Yeah, so making money from YouTube, no I don't. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could do. And I could get t-shirts printed with Scoosh in them or something, you know, try and sell merchandise or whatever, but it's hard enough work making these videos. And I don't want to get to the position where I'm starting to think, oh no, I said I would do this, but if it starts becoming a chore, I wouldn't want to do it anymore. So I don't want to get to that point. I enjoy what I do, and I like to keep control of it. And that's people often ask how much I charge for doing the servicing, and I only charge a tenner just to cover return postage and use of a bit of oil and cotton buds and stuff. Because as soon as I started charging, that becomes money for services. And yes, that should be declared for tax, but also you get yourself into some, there's a certain legalities there that can result from that. I could find myself in some sticky positions if I started offering a proper paid for service. So I'd say, well, it's £35 plus VAT per service, whatever. It becomes hard at that point for me to say no to people, to say, no, I don't want to do that, or I'll do it, but at some point, or whatever. If people are willing to pay the money, you feel more obliged to do it. And by not charging and just covering my costs, people do donate money. Say I ask for £10, but some people give me 20, some give me 50 once, so that's fantastic. And I would much rather people give me their money like that than me asking for it. Then it's all a bonus. But if people said, well, I paid 35, 40 quid or whatever, and my locomotive's still not working, or there's just so many ways that could go wrong. And by not charging and doing it the way I do it, I keep complete control over it. I could stop doing this tomorrow and say, right, I'm not doing any service requests for 6 months. I've got complete control. So I much prefer to do it that way. So that's why I don't really charge for doing them. I do it because it's fun. It's been fantastic for me. I've learned so much this past year or two working in all these locomotives. Not just my own ones. There's stuff I would never have seen otherwise. So it's all knowledge that's gone in and experience, and it's made me. The more I do, the more confident I get that I can fix just about any locomotive. I think now, I've not been beaten yet. Not really. The Hellions were close. I wouldn't say those were the worst locomotives I worked on. They were certainly two of the most challenging ones. I think it was Class 16 and the rail bus. They were very difficult to work on. And I wouldn't be in a hurry to do those again. But at the same time, they were kind of fun because they were so challenging. And I would never have seen those if I hadn't been doing the repairs that I do. So it's all good. I get a lot from it. It's not about the money. Last weekend I meant to go up to Cooper. Somebody asked me if I get to many exhibitions. I'll be honest, I've never been to one. Back in the day, back in the 70s, you just never heard of them. So when I came back to the hobby, there isn't much in Scotland. Say there was one in Cooper at the weekend there, and I was toying with the idea of going up, but a couple of things cropped up and I thought, no. There was Model Rail Scotland in Glasgow in February, and there was one in Perth. They're all a bit away from me, and I'll get to one at some point. I fully intend to go to Model Rail Scotland next year. I just didn't fancy driving all the way through to Glasgow because I live in the east side of Scotland. So I didn't fancy driving all the way through to Glasgow, paying a fortune for car parking, having to walk around the SETC with a mask on and all that. It's just but I do intend to go to Model Rail Scotland next year. and try and get to some of the other exhibitions. But I'm a wee bit miffed I didn't go up to Cooper last weekend there, but you know, it'll be there next year, I suppose, and we'll see. But I will get to them at some point. What else did somebody ask me? Oh yeah, someone asked if I was going to get a J15. Yes, I will. I will definitely get a J15 at some point. I saw when I was looking for the J36, you know, Google kept throwing up the J15, and I thought, oh, that's very nice. Wouldn't mind one of those, but at the time it was the J36 I was after. You know, I don't really buy brand new locomotives unless it's something very special. The J36 I got because it was the locomotive that ran along my local branch line. The Cal 812, well, you know, it's just such a fantastic looking locomotive. And of course, with the Scottish connection, I thought it'd just be perfect in this layout. I thought I'd just have to have it. But you know, apart from those two locomotives, I can't think of anyone that I would you know, be really keen to spend the money on to buy brand new. And the J15, although it's not hugely expensive, and it's a really nice locomotive and still seems to be available, I'll get it when I can pick one up cheap. I actually missed one. There was one on eBay not too long ago. I think it went for about 65 quid or something. So I'll keep looking on eBay for one. If anybody sees one going cheap or knows somebody that wants to sell one cheap, let me know, because yeah, I'm definitely in the market for the G15. What else am I in the market for? Caledonian Coaches bogie bolsters. Oh, my wife bought me these bogie bolsters at a charity shop, a couple of the old trying ones. So I want to get a couple more bogie bolsters. I want to replace the load. I mean, these are just bundles of dowels, and that's exactly what they look like. So I want to maybe get some twigs or something, make them look like freshly cut tree trunks or something. But yeah, bogie bolsters I'm certainly after. But locomotive wise, well, that would be kind of telling. There's a few that I'm still looking out for on eBay. But we'll get them eventually. But that'll kind of spoil the surprise next time I do a what's in the box eBay purchase video. You just have to wait and see what I get next. But I'm always looking on eBay, and I'm always bidding on things. Don't always win, obviously, but you know, there's still a couple of locomotives I really want to get, so stay tuned. Okay folks, I think I've blethered on long enough. I'm going to carry on putting this fence in. It's nearly done, but it'll have to dry, and then I'll get it painted, and then I'll have to put the bushes and that back in, so it probably won't be done till later tomorrow. If you've any other questions you want to ask, please just put it in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions. If this is something you'd like to see me do again, something along these lines, we'll see. I'm aware this has probably been a very long video, but what the hell. You know, but next time I'm doing some work on the layout, maybe I'll just switch the camera on and blether away to you and see what happens. But if you have more questions, that's fine, fire away, and I'll get around to answering them at some point. Apologies, it's taken so long to get around to answering some of those questions. Alright folks, catch you later.